Hey, before this video starts, I'm just gonna let you know there are spoilers in here. So if you have not played the game yet, or you're just starting it and you haven't finished the story, would not recommend watching this because there's going to be some pretty major spoilers in here. Now, maybe you're watching this review to see like, hey, should I get the game or not? If you're doing that, you can look in your top right hand corner right now. You will see my is it worth it, which just goes over the overall of the game and if it's worth it or not, and it's spoiler free, so that's the one you're looking for. But anyway, let's get into this. So, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This game has been something that I don't think anyone was expecting to be of this high quality. This game has surprised me in so many ways that it's kind of just crazy, since I remember when they were showing this game off last year during E3, I thought it didn't look great at all and it was just going to be another game that would suck, since not only has Star Wars quality been taking a steep toll downwards, but it's also produced by EA. Well, I guess Respawn, but it's EA basically, and we all know EA, right? It's EA. They have been in the news like every day, so it's just, this game has taken me by storm, and everything I was anticipating this game to be, it just grabbed that, put it into the ground, and showed me this new game that was completely unexpected in a good way. So to start us off, if you don't know Fallen Order, basically this game is a Star Wars game that takes place during the prequel and original trilogy era, leaning more toward the prequel since it takes place 5 years after Order 66, and it kind of shows the transformation of the clone troopers to stormtroopers into the Galactic Empire. So it's a very cool era. It's just, that's one of my favorite eras right now. But again, it's prequel era sometimes, and oh god, the prequels. But this game is a single player story game with no multiplayer, no microtransactions, or DLC, which I still find funny since a couple years ago EA said that single player games are dead and no one wants to play them. And you know, here just comes Star Wars Fallen Order out of nowhere, and it just blew it out of the water. But besides all that, let's get into this. So the story in this game is a pretty good story. I say pretty good, that's me underestimating it. It's an amazing story. So the main character in this game that you're going to be playing as is Cal. That's the dude with the red hair. You can't miss him. You're going to be playing as him the entire game. So I really love his story and how it shows his journey from the scrapper at the beginning to how he becomes a Jedi Knight at the end, and it goes deep into his background and all the pains he goes through and pains he's going through currently, which is very nice. A lot of character development on him. Then after this, you meet some other characters in this game that play a pretty important role. So for example, Sierra, she is one of the most important parts in the story, and without her, the story just would not make sense. You know, this game goes way into her story, which is really good since they don't force it at all. It's just really good, and it's fun to go into her story. And to be quite honest, at times, she outshines Cal's story by a long shot, and it's just really funny actually. But they're both really good stories, and they're both fun to just get into and understand them more, which just adds on the character development. But there's also villains in this game. So the main villains in this game that you're gonna be like fighting that have like story and all of that are the Inquisitors, which if you don't know the Inquisitors, they're basically like old Jedis turned Sith that hunt down Jedis. That's literally all they do. But you're gonna be fighting the second sister in this, which is still by far the hardest one, and I don't care what you say, the second sister was the hardest one by far to win. Then there's a ninth sister who's really the main villain in this game, that you get her story, which is pretty good because it turns out she is like Sierra's previous Padawan, and it just goes deep into her stuff, and it all adds together and makes a very nice cake, okay? But it's just overall a good story with every character and how they put it together in the overall story. You know, it's really, the overall story is just the story of everyone else, and mainly just how Cal is just finding himself now after being lost, not knowing what to do when his master's dead. He's just kind of chilling, hiding from the Empire, making sure they don't see who he is, because if you don't know, if you're a Jedi and the Empire finds out, it ain't looking too hot for you, Chief. But other from that, they eventually found a holocron, which has a map to every Force-sensitive kid in the galaxy, which, you know, they're trying to obtain to restart the Jedi Order, which, if you've seen the movies or paid the littlest of attention, you would know it doesn't happen. But with this, it goes really well, since at the end there's a Darth Vader scene, which basically Mr. Vader finds out that you have the holocron and starts going after you. And you know, the way they portrayed Vader was one of the best I've seen in the series and possibly the movies. It's just amazingly done. And I think what made it better is that you weren't supposed to even be a competition to Vader, which they do amazingly. You get one lucky shot on him and you know, you feel unstoppable. You're like, yo, I just hit a shot on fucking Darth Vader, but in reality it did nothing to him, which I like, since it just shows how powerful he is. Now, he also fights Seer in this, and when you see him fight, he just starts going crazy on her and just pushes her back, and just without the slightest of force, and it just shows how powerful he really is, which it's kind of funny, since if you look at the angle that they show it to, if you see the size difference, it's just scary looking at him. This is one of the very few instances where Darth Vader is actually intimidating and you feel like you need to escape to survive, since you obviously won't be able to beat him in any way possible. So yeah, but another scene that they do really well is at the very beginning, where you first start off and you first meet Cal, and you know, they just show off the whole experience that you're about to go into, and they do it very nice, since this beginning scene was not only visually stunning, it was also just filled with prequel stuff, which is nutty because it's prequels. Who doesn't like the prequels? You know, it also reveals that you, Cal, are a Jedi, and you eventually get to fight the Ninth Sister, and it's kind of like fucking Darth Vader, where you're not supposed to defeat her, and it just shows that you're way too weak for her. And overall, the first scene and the last scene are just a masterpiece. The only problem I have is that the final fight that you're actually fighting, where you're control of all of it, it's kind of easy. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still a good challenge, but for me it was really easy to do, which everyone is sitting here and like, oh, it's so hard, but really just stay your distance and hit when you know how to hit. And that's playing on Jedi Master. It's just they could have made it more challenging, which I feel, but either way, it's still fun to do. Now, while I go on to the story as much as I possibly could, since there's still way too much story, I'm gonna try and keep this video a little shorter. So one thing I very like is that one thing I like, okay? That's what I meant to say. One thing I like is the very small details that they put into this game. Now, I'm not gonna go too much into it because there's way too much to list in one video, but I think one of my favorites that you can see all the time is just Cal's hair physics, which sounds weird, but just look at his hair and the movements for literally a minute and you'll see what I mean. It's just crazy how much detail they put into this game, to the littlest things, where if you zoom all the way into like birds flying in the sky, they have full details, which I don't know why, but they went all in on this game, which is very nice to see, and it's just very detailed. You're gonna notice it, okay? Now, did I also mention you could customize your lightsaber to the fullest? The lightsaber customization, Jesus, in this game is by far the most customizable in any Star Wars ever. Literally anything you want, you can change, from saber color to the saber material. You want a white saber? Sure. You want a green one? Sure. You want a red one? I'm talking about the material, by the way, not the actual color of the saber, but like the material. You get what I'm saying. But basically, it's just very fun to mess with, and there's way so many options. It's crazy how much you can do with your lightsaber. So that's there. But overall, to make this video somewhat short, since I go on for an hour at least, this game is just amazing, and it has an amazing story, amazing combat, amazing locations, amazing characters. It's just a crazy good game. The only thing I could really knock on this game for is that you need a somewhat powerful system to get the best performance. So for example, I have a mid-tier PC, I run everything on medium, and I get about 60 frames if I'm lucky, and it has a lot of moments where it stutters for a second, and it's really noticeable since it messes up everything. But that's literally the only thing I can knock on it. And you know, in the end, this game just dives deep into character lore and Star Wars lore. It's just a fun game that has the story of Halo, but the adventure of Uncharted that you go into. So Overall, I would give this game an 8 out of 10. Only reason holding this game back is the micro stuttering that you get every now and then. You know, how the game is somewhat short. The story was like 7 hours, I think. It's something really short for that game. But, you know, they made another one of these, which personally, if it was in the prequels and a longer story that had the great quality of the story and maybe fixed performance issues, this game could easily be a 10. But otherwise, without keeping this video too long, that's been it. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you follow me on Twitch. Link is in the description. Yeah, I will see you next time. Goodbye.